Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to welcome everyone to the January 24th Redevelopment Commission workshop. Of course, you know we're casual and we're just going to throw some things on the table, but we're going to most likely, I hope, to stick to the agenda. One thing right quick, Robbie Morgan will not be here. He's had an issue, some health issues. He was at the hospital last night.
Oh my God.
So he called me this morning and he sent me some information about the clinic. So when his thing comes up, we'll go. I'll explain to you what he found out about the health clinic and the services that they've done so far. I want to take this opportunity to thank Marvin for stepping in where Zeb is. Hopefully, he wants to give up this position right away. So,
That's the deal with us for a while.
yeah, he's going to get the position. Yeah. So hopefully, and he will update us later on about the search for executive director. Also, Sharon, I want to congratulate you on leaving us.
Well, thank you.
And hope your term on the city council is a good one. I know you have some good input, and I know you'll be strong for the city. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Marvin, if you would go ahead and give us a roll call, please.
Yeah, Victor Dove,
Here.
Jimmy Dillahunt,
Here.
Sarah Proctor,
Here.
Deandra Morgan, Steve Strickland,
Here.
Reggie Jones,
Here.
Curtis Stewart. Here we have a quorum.
Consider approving the agenda.
I'm sorry,
I'm here.
Julius Parham.
I'm here, yes.
And Tabari Wallace.
There we go. I'm here.
Consider approving the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. We approve the agenda as presented with the correction that the minutes for August 13th should be December the 10th. Is that correct?
Good catch. So move.
All right.
Second.
Okay. You've heard the motion, it has all been moved. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Consider approval of minutes for December the 10th. Any questions? Any corrections? Anyone have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
The second. It's been moved and probably second that we approve the minutes for December the 10th, 2025. Any questions? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Thank you. Mission statement. Guiding principles. Sarah, we'll start with you.
Am I reading the big thing?
Yeah, big thing, big red thing. One line.
The New Bern Redevelopment Commission, leading the way for community transformation and improvement by directly addressing community needs in the vital areas of public health, infrastructure, housing, and economic development.
And of course, guiding principles of past, present, future, equal time.
Respect and opinion.
Okay.
Listen to build consensus. Share accurate information. Public perception.
Stay focused, be action oriented, and believe.
Thank you. You know, at our last meeting, we had two gentlemen to come to get approved so we could move forward on the bid on the property, on the upset bid process. And of course, one of them was Mr. Phil Hedrick, and the other one was Mr. Ansel Jarvis. Of course, we'll do those separately. The question that we had, or the reason that we kind of held off on this, is because we needed some pictures, just an idea of what they were going to build. So, and it was in the package, and if anyone has any concerns about that or have any questions about that, let us know now. If not, I would like for us to go ahead and approve item number 6 based on the pictures we got. Any questions? Anyone have any concerns about that?
Did everyone, obviously I sent the package out, so everyone had an opportunity to see the photos of the properties that are similar to what what he's doing, this is, one of the examples of the property that he sent. And this is the second one.
Now, what's that, proposed location for that? I didn't read that.
606 White Street, I believe that's
Right.
where the property is.
So it was two addresses for,
Well, one of them, the city owned the backside of that he's already put in and purchasing that. What the Redevelopment Commission owns is that little slot on the front side. But what you can see, I think the one with the tree on it is what the Redevelopment Commission owns, and the other side is what the city owns. So he's already purchased the one from the city, just getting the adjoining lot from the Redevelopment Commission.
Is it for personal to live in, or is it for lease?
It's for he develops a sale. I believe that's what didn't he present that? I wasn't here.
This,
My understanding is he's building affordable housing
Right.
for to sell, not to rent.
correct,
Okay.
right. All right.
I want to make a statement about that.
Yes, sir.
The houses he proposing to build are being in character with the neighborhood. I'm familiar with Lee Street, and I just wondered if anybody else familiar with the houses that are on Lee Street.
This is White
I'm
Street.
looking at the house that
Yeah.
he's proposing to build, and it is in character with what Lee Street has to offer. That's the question I'm asking, is that going to be a requirement, or you can build anything?
Well, I don't think you can just build anything. Of course, you know, the city has its codes and statutes and everything, what you can and can't build. But with the character of the house, I understand what you're saying, does it fit in?
With the neighborhood?
With the neighborhood,
yes.
right,
Yes.
okay. Because now, the one there, that's on Bern Street, and that's down the street from my house. It's the smallest thing on Bern Street, but, you know, it's on a lot that you can't do anything else with.
Is it in character with the neighborhood?
This is across the
Yeah.
street.
I know where you're talking about,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it, yeah, I know where
Okay,
the
yeah.
street is, but I'm saying, is it in character with the houses in the neighborhood? Oh, you can go and build anything.
Personally, I don't have a problem with that house being on Bern Street. Considering the other stuff that I've got on Bern Street that is not presentable and not pleasant.
And isn't it commensurate with the lot size?
Well, it's gonna be all associated with the zoning requirements of what's allowed. I mean, it's allowable, it fits within the zoning guidelines. And when you're talking affordable housing, I mean, you're not gonna get a two-story elaborate home. You're gonna get something basically on the equivalent of that for that particular community. I mean, I can't make an opinion as far as if it looks like the other houses on the street, but it is a new construction that's affordable.
Yeah.
can you go to the other one that he built on the other street? Now that one there, for some reason, seems a little more appealing than the blue one. So if that became an issue for anybody was forward thinking for the members of that community, there might be a stipulation on how you may need to do the E on the house to try, because if you go back to the blue house, there's something about that, it seems like this could have been more appealing. So if the neighborhood is gonna be wondering about appeal and just dropping something in there, as Mr. Dillon was stating, that was a good point. Because that house right there would not match what's there
character of the neighborhood.
on New Street. Now, that a house that small could, we would just have to do some adjustments to the beautification on the front.
We don't have our esteemed legal counsel in the room right now, but I expect she would be cautioning us to be leery of going down the road of picking and choosing whether or not we sell property based on colors or minor things about it. I'm just saying, we forgo that control.
Right.
Whenever we sell it, we can make recommendations, and we do have counsel in the room, but not specializing in this, as I see your head nod. So basically, I feel like we either need to sell it for someone to develop something based on the general concept that's presented, general, very broad. They're gonna build a smaller house that does not clearly conflict with the rest of the neighborhood, or we think it's gonna conflict. That's just my 2 cents, because we're kind of going down the more nuanced hole of what exactly is it. So we need to be able, if we think it does not fit, in order for us not to be open to liability, we need to be able to articulate why it does not fit, not just minor details.
And we're not set up for that.
Right.
And what we're saying is subjective anyway, like I don't like the look of that, maybe somebody else does, so you have to be careful with that.
Yes.
And everything can change. I mean, he could put, this is a general picture right here, and say this is what I intend to build right now. I don't think we're gonna have Marvin out there enforcing, making sure that he builds exactly what's in that picture. Or anybody else.
Yeah, and this is just an example of, because the board was asking for something that would be representative of what, an example of what he's building.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the sale of the 606 White Street to Mr. Phillip.
And I second that.
Okay. And that's the process going with the, upset bid process.
That's correct, it's going to the board.
Okay, go to the board, correct. Okay. That's been moved and properly second that we consider the bid process for 606 West Street. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The second one is Mr. Jarvis. This, we held up on this because of the picture. This is the idea of what he wants to purchase. What he wants to build. And his property is Eubanks Street and 8th Street.
Yeah, he has 3 lots that he put the bid in for, I believe it's 808, 828 Eubanks Street. And then he has also a request for 1129 H Street, H is in Henry, and 1135 H Street, those 3 properties. And these are examples, which was in your packet, of the types of properties, types of buildings to build. This is a picture of the property on Eubanks, 8th Street. Okay. And the other 8th Street.
Do we know if these are in the flood zone? I don't know the map. We have an overlay map, but I don't know.
I think the Eubanks is in the flood area.
So he'll just have to comply with the, when he goes to build,
Goes
he'll
up.
have to comply with
Right.
the.
10 feet, I think, 11 feet?
I think we're starting at 10. I'm not
10.
wrong. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Any concerns?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a broad question. I think Zeb talks about it in his executive briefing. What is the, and maybe not the time for the, I think it's relative to this purchase and all of them. What is the governance of making sure that folks that are purchasing these properties are actually putting these residents and these other things on the property? Because it looks like in his executive briefing, there's properties that's been sold that nothing's been done with. So when we're liquidating these properties, what is, it doesn't seem like there's a check and balance to make sure that things are actually being done.
Can we hold that?
Sure.
Let's hold that for open discussion later.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and take care of this issue.
Well, I think it's all relative because if you look at his executive briefing, he's saying that there's lots that have been sold where there's been nothing done with them.
Well, now were those lots that the city sold?
Redevelopment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of you all's covenants, the requirements that, the restricted covenants that you all put in there that says you have to start construction within 12 months and it has to be completed by 24. If it's not, it reverts back to your ownership, the redevelopment commission.
Right.
If someone does not start within 12 months, maybe putting a foundation down or get permission from you all to amend that if they have a problem, something comes up and they can't do it within the guidelines, but if they don't do it within those guidelines, there's a reversion clause, and then it will revert back to the redevelopment commission.
And is that something that has to be initiated by the redevelopment?
It's part of the conditions that you all placed on that.
I think the director would need to keep a spreadsheet of what we've sold, which might require some work to go back, but keep a, spreadsheet. Here's what we've sold, here's the times, here's 12, here's 24, and then, bring it to us on a periodic basis. And then I don't think we've had to enforce before, but we could figure out from then. So I think that should be something we can request kind of in the purview of the new executive director's role.
And I think they watch that throughout the process and stay in contact with folks, because I know for others that have come back and asked for a delay, we've been told like, hey, we're at 9 months, they're gonna come back and ask for extra time because they ran into so-and-so problem. And then it's been presented in front of us in a meeting or two after that. So I'm almost wondering if maybe his note on his executive summary was just kind of a, hey, you're gonna need to stay on top of this. If I'm not sitting in this chair, then somebody.
He lists some addresses and people in regards to that. But again, it may not be the proper time. It's a question I have.
Let's hold that toward the end when we have open discussion, please.
I think it's a good question.
Okay. All right, so item number 7, we have it. Does anyone like to make a motion to accept this process?
So this is the upset bid process.
Upset bid process also.
Chair, unless there's going to be an objection between the 3 properties, actually do all 3 of these together.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So we want to do upset bid on 828 Eubanks, 1129 H Street, and 1135. Yeah. 1129 H Street and 1135 H Street.
I'll make a motion to approve the upset bid process for those 4
Yeah,
properties.
second that motion.
Okay. Been moved and properly second. For item 7, that we go into the upset bid for 828 Eubank Street, 1129 H Street, and 1135 H Street. Any questions? So it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next item, Public Works presentation.
George, you want to have these out?
Okay. Go on, please.
Just as Avery's,
I don't know why colleagues sent it over there, but I think because of the.
Oh, just show you the screen.
Okay.
well, good morning, everyone. This is the city manager's asked that y'all have had some questions about ongoing stormwater projects within the redevelopment commission boundary. And so what I've got is the handout that Avery Smith, our stormwater superintendent, has passed out to you of what we have completed, what's recently been completed, what we have that is ongoing right now. So within the redevelopment boundary, and we're going to go through the projects also, but if you just look at the value of the work that's been completed to date, so this is, we've completed just over $5.7 million of grade work in that area, and we have another 1.6 that we're currently working on or in the planning stages.
Is that by time or
That's past 3 or 4 years. Those forms, and that does not include approximately $2.1 million of Cat A and D FEMA work that was done on the Jack Smith Creek Basin. So these numbers are not inclusive of FEMA work. And this is just drainage. So as we go through these, page, the number 2 sheet on your handout, so we have an ARPA enabled, which is $1.5 from Alderman Best, funding for the East Rose culvert. And we'll go into detail on these. That's $500,000 that's been allocated for that. We have a bond referendum item for the drainage along Pollock and Liberty. That's right here in front of the Habitat Research School. And that's been a historic issue with drainage right there. We've had some general fund allocations through the Stormwater Division that have been completed, and one on Broad and First at the church right there on the corner. Jarvis, Grace, Williams, and Biddle, Queen Street and West Street. And then we get into grant funding. We have $250,000 that we applied for and received from Golden Leaf. That funding, and we'll get to some additional funding on that project. The East Rose Basin expansion, which has been completed. The Duffy Field Stormwater Enhancement Phase 1, which was $2.5 million. Phase 2 and 3 was $2.872 million. And then we are currently working on the Duffy Field Canal Master Restoration Plan. So as the next year go through, these are details of those projects. So the East Rose culvert replacement, this is Ward 5 ARPA enabled funding from Alderman Best, and this is to replace the culverts at the discharge point of the East Rose lift station right there at the cemetery as you go to the cemetery.
Is that improvements on both sides?
That will be, it'll be a replacement of the culverts, is what our plan is, and plus floodgates. So we're gonna get some different style floodgates. The intent of those floodgates is this connects right to the outfall of Jackson Creek. So when we have a tropical event and the river rises, better floodgates allow us to keep the water from the river from coming back into the neighborhood to a point. Now, when we get to storms like Florence, you know, there's a limit to how well we can do to stop the river. So we're going to do our best to gain a couple extra feet that we can actually stop the river from coming back in on us.
The problem won't be consistent like it usually is.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about a 100-year storm like Florence, just our normal high nor'easters and tropical events that we see quite often. And then on the next page, we got we added some storm pipe and curb inlets right there at First and Broad. And there was no street drainage right there, so we tied it into the Broad drainage. Jarvis, Grace, Williams, and Biddle. There again, we've been adding storm drainage to areas that have previously not had pipes and collection points. And that project's been completed. Pollock and Liberty, this is one of the bond referendum items. So when the bond referendum for stormwater was approved, we had selected 11 projects. This is one of them. And we had historically known this was a problem, but it was also analyzed during the asset inventory assessment that we received a $400,000 grant for that cammering and location work on. And we have come up with some ideas that will be funded through the bond referendum to help get the water down the streets of the river. And it's really got to do with an outfall size that goes down Liberty.
Forgive me if it's already publicly known, but do we have a timeline of when that referendum funding will be procured and the project start?
This will likely have some funding available starting this summer. There's some steps they have to go through to get it. And some of the drainage projects, this one will require additional permitting. So as we try to work through them, we're going to try to hit the ones that we have limited state or federal oversight on that we can quickly do. This one, since we're talking about an outfall directly to public trust waters. This one will require some more permitting, depending on what we do. So we're gonna try to get them in the planning stages. We, like I say, these drawings came from the AIA study, so we've got a good idea of what we've got to do. We've just got to make it not overrun price and still achieve some kind of benefit for the area. And that, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, if you've ever driven during a heavy, high-volume, intense rain, that's what happens in that area. Now, it does clear, it just takes a little time, mainly because there's a lot of drainage that is connected to this whole outfall that comes off of Broad. So we've got more water than we have pipes.
We've outgrown the system.
I know we've outgrown the system, and, you know, we've got a very old town, and we've, over historically, pipes have been attached to pipes and additional drainage, and it works fine during a normal rain, but when we have a high intensity rain, when we get an inch an hour or something like that, you'll have it back up, and it will clear in 60 minutes or so, but the result is it's difficult to pass that area. Next one on page 7 of your handout, East Rose Lift Station. So this is to lower the lift station, the pumps on this. And what that allows us to do is have additional drawdown capacity. So if we lower the intake of the pump, we can draw down lower in the canal and draw more water down in the canal. And that will help with high flow times. We have our additional, we had applied for a $250,000 Golden Link. We received that. We put it out to bid, and the lowest bid came in at about 3 times that. So we have applied for some additional grant funding through the Resilient Coastal Communities Program. We should hear about our application in February. So coming up real quick.
This is the second project
That's the second one that,
for the culvert replacement.
right, it's at the same pond and the culverts are right there, but this is, you know, it's one project area. We've just had multiple projects involved. It's difficult to go after big grants.
Y'all done a good job over there so far. It looks
I
better.
appreciate it. That can be testament to Avery Smith and his stormwater crew.
It looks more appealing when you're at a funeral.
And then we have the East Rose Basin expansion, which we've already completed. So we enlarged that basin or the pond right there about 6,500 square feet. And that allowed us for some additional capacity, helps the pumps be able to handle a little more water. It also helps with water treatment. So we're taking, a lot of these grants are also associated with the reduction of phosphorus, nitrogen, and other pollutants that we can take out with wetland species. So that is, you know, it's usually a dry area, but when the pond fills up, you'll see it flood over that small pond. And that has been completed. Now the big one. So the Duffy Field Community Stormwater Enhancement Project was funded by several different grant agencies. The first part of that was, and this was several years ago, we enlarged the Middle Street pond. So we went from approximately 1/3 of an acre to about 3/4 of an acre for that pond size. So we've got additional capacity. And at that time, they installed a new wet well for the future pump. And we were also able to purchase a backup generation power there. So if we're lacking power in that area of town, we still have backup power to run the pumps.
Quick question.
Yes.
How many properties did you have to purchase to do this?
These, we did not have to purchase any properties. We were able to utilize lots that the city received through FEMA from the buyout program, where they were no longer buildable when the city receives those back to FEMA. So this is a good use of those properties.
We ended up purchasing one property that one gentleman, he had 2 lots, I believe, and one with the handicap access route that goes up to the back to the one house. He didn't want to sell that house.
The walkways.
Where the walkway's on.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the only property we had to purchase.
Okay.
How deep is that pond at the deepest part?
It's well, I go by, I look at it from an elevation standpoint. The bottom of it is a -2. So it's, right now it's probably holding 3 foot of water in it. But capacity wise, you still got a freeboard of 4 to 5 more feet of freeboard around the side stick. That's total capacity. I can't tell you in gallons how much it is, that's a big number, but it will definitely, the pump sizes that we put in, that we replace it with, we'll put a 35 horsepower pump in there. So when it gets up that high, that 35 horsepower should suck it down pretty fast. I've noticed a big difference already compared to the, remember the old station, you remember the old little station that was on the side of the fence around the side?
Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah, it had only, those pumps were like 2 horsepower. And you remember how long it would take for it to draw that?
Yes. It took a
Well, the
while.
last heavy rain we had, I didn't even see the,
That's a lawnmower.
I know,
It's tiny.
we didn't even see the levels change. Remember, what was the last storm we had? Maybe a month ago, we had a heavy storm?
Yeah.
The level ain't never changed in the pond. The pumps keep up way better. It's a way better system. And it's, I think it's got a lot to do with the ability for water to flow to the pump station faster as well. So,
Did y'all take it all the way down to the water table, or is that a? option?
yeah, it's a little, it's
Right at the water table.
about right at the water
Right at the
table.
water table.
So it'll, you can dry it out, but it's always gonna be water in the bottom of it, so a little bit.
And when we talk about the depth of the pond, storm ponds, ones like this, there is a shelf down right below the normal water level that is a 10 to 1 slope. So you've got 10 feet where it only drops 12 inches. And that is a vegetative slope, so when people have more concerns about the depth of a pond, people falling in it, well, if you go down the bank, you'll be in ankle deep water for 10 feet. So there, it provides a, it's more designed for a pollutant reduction issue, but it also provides for a safety shelf on it. Yeah. And written down. And so the next part of the phase 1 was we had to have a discharge for this new huge pump system we were planning to put in. So we actually put in, and this was probably 24 months ago when this completed, we put in 2,300 feet of force main that takes the water from that pond and takes it all the way down to the culvert under the tracks, right at East Road is actually where it comes out. And that allows us to put the water, once it's been treated in the pond, it will be able to go right to the outfall. And if you look to the right, as you're going to the cemetery, right in front of the East Rose lift station, there's some riprap marl right there. The water actually comes down that pipe, and then it slowly outflows, and it just trickles down into the outfall. So it's kind of neat how it operates when the pump's running.
Does any of this flow all the way over to Simmons Street?
No, this water would not. It goes straight to Jack Smith Creek.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we had finished all of that. That was $2.5 million. And then phase 2 and 3, the heavy construction, everything, we're just finishing the closeout documents on this. 2 and 3 was probably what you noticed the most. So we can, in this contract and design, there was a constructed 8.5 acres of new wetlands and retention areas. This receives water from over 50 acres of area. So this area received water that had no real outlet, not an adequate outlet that we now have to discharge this water. So it provides about 2 million gallons of stormwater storage that we did not have before, just the wetlands itself, not including the pond. So now we have a place to collect the water. We've got the pump system now to discharge the water, which before these areas had no real outlet for drainage. And along with that, if you've been in there, it's a really neat place. There are walkways. There's thousands of plantings, wetland species, cypress trees. There's the plantings also help reduce the nitrogen and phosphorus and bacteria in the water before it goes actually into the pond, which gets additional treatment before we put it into the river.
And George, how long are the protection for the plantings gonna be there, do you know?
Okay, so if you go out there and you see strings with little silver shiny pieces, the contractor has to warranty the plants. Well, if those strings weren't up, the geese will pull them all out of the ground before they reach maturity. So that is actually a deterrent to keep the geese from going in there and pulling these new wetland plants out of the ground. And they will be removed once, you know, they're established and the warranty period's done.
Just to give you an idea too, once the plants establish themselves, the geese can't see from the water, and they won't populate the area anymore. They like to be in open areas. So a lot of that stuff will self-heal itself after a while. We won't have to worry about geese anymore.
And also, there was a discussion at one time about a phase 4, but obviously it's a funding consideration that hasn't been readdressed yet. But the phase 4 for that property would be more of
Park amenities.
park amenities, there seats, benches and stuff like that, but that's gonna be a little bit further down the road.
But the walkways and overwalks are installed, so you can walk through the site. Page 12 is just kind of an overview, showing the enlarged pond and how the water is routed. So now that you see this, you can now see where we have an opportunity to introduce water into these wetlands from places that did not have that drainage outfall prior to this. Yes.
This is probably for Marvin. Does New Bern, like Public Works, take over like upkeep of those areas now? Like once they're done with the stormwater phase, do they get mowed and all that stuff?
This is not officially a park, so
Okay.
just like Jack Smith Creek wetlands that stormwater and public works maintains, we'll maintain this.
Oh, okay.
Now, if a phase 4 function comes in where you have park amenities, there may be some consideration right now, but none of our funding for phase 1, 2, or 3, while phase 4 was shown on some schematics, it was not considered in the grant funding. And we're also currently working on a $367,000 Resilient Coastal Communities Program grant for a master restoration plan for the Duffy Field Canal. So that would basically run from Henderson Park all the way to the East Rose Lift Station to the outfall. And they're working on that now. They've done a lot of the surveying. If you've seen in the neighborhoods, you might have seen these big painted V's on the ground. Those were actually aerial targets for when they flew it to get LiDAR elevations on the whole site. So if you see surveyors in that area, that'll be supplementing that information they gathered. And this will just be this is just a planning grant. So once we get that together and have ideas of what we can do, one thing about planning grants, once you have the planning done, it makes it more easy to access other grants for construction. And this, the next page is a kind of a drainage basin area of what the Duffy Field Canal collects to let you know how much water actually goes into this canal. And that is just within the study area. There's additional water that actually, once you get up to this boulevard, there's some additional drainage that actually goes into this canal from other areas. So like I said, that's what we've had going on the last several years. And we still have projects that we're trying to get additional funding for to complete. We have ongoing funding projects. So, you know, the next 24 months, we hope to have some of these projects completed or at least in construction phase.
Everything in blue doesn't represent water, does it?
No, that's just a separate parcel. That's a parcel designation. No, that's not
Yeah,
water. No. Just the highlighted line showing where the Duffy Field Canal, the red line is the boundary of that area that drains to it within the Duffy Field area. So if there are any questions, you know, Avery Smith's here. He's been an integral part in overseeing a lot of these projects. And his crews are the ones that go in and do a lot of maintenance in that area. So if I can't answer it, I'm going to rely on Avery's expertise.
You still
Still
on?
Okay, I got
Yes, sir.
a question, and I got some comments too.
Yes, sir.
I live in Duffy Field. Anybody in this area here, at this table, live in Duffy Field? I mean, okay, Duffy Field. I live in a pond. Period, it's a pond. It rains, I cannot get out of my residence. And we spent $2 million on Summer Street project. It hadn't done one thing as for getting the water in our neighborhood. $2 million was spent on that project. And another, I want to ask, of course, were the neighbors in that neighborhood in the East Road, Fowler Lane, were they notified of the work that y'all were gonna do in that area before it was done?
We had conversations with some of the neighbors that lived in that area and some of the property owners that were, they own the properties but lease the houses. So we did have some of those discussions, and they had public outreach before any of the work was done.
And the elimination of the streets and the, well, I call them ponds, mosquito ponds, was that considered in the neighborhood group talk?
We looked at the traffic patterns, and what we saw a lot of, and this was especially true when we did the force main construction, a lot of people use that area for a through area, not so much the residents that live there. We actually had some comments from people that live on these roads that they would have preferred us to keep construction barriers up to limited the volume of traffic through there. And we are seeing a change in traffic pattern now that people see that it's not really a throughway anymore, it's more of a residential area. But there is one area that we were looking at where the point is on, it was K and
K building
and
Magnet.
yeah, right there, yeah. Where we're looking at that we might have to do something different, and to change that, just to more easily facilitate getting around that corner. It's an acute angle. So we are looking at that.
Okay.
And when we talk about, you mentioned mosquito ponds, one good thing about the new Biddle Street pond, it has an electric pump in it, so there are 3 pumps in that system. So we can stage them as they go up. The electric pump is a smaller pump, and it runs most of the time to draw water through, so you have a constant moving water system. So it's not just a stagnant pond waiting, for high water to get it to go out. And so when we have water movement, it helps facilitate less mosquito larvae. The wetlands themselves will introduce other animal and insect species that also can counteract that problem.
So and that's what you're saying, by the water moving, it would not stagnate to draw
Yes, sir.
mosquitoes. And I say that to say this, we don't want a mosquito breathing area.
I think all of
And the
us.
wind come and blow it across town, and that's what normally happens.
Now,
Mosquitoes grow, and it bloom right by my house. The mosquitoes, and like I say, if you don't stay in Duffyfield, and I live over there, you don't know what I'm talking about.
now,
I cannot get out of my house with a big rain, a average rain. I cannot go down Hazel Avenue. I cannot go down Washington Street. So what are you doing about those areas?
Well, we're working on areas that right now we've facilitated grant funding. I mean, you look at these numbers, these are far ahead of what is normally funded or would be available for us to do stormwater structures. So that's why we take grant opportunity there, and it's, that we have a lot of places in town, Duffyfield being one of them, that have limited outfall, or it's restricted because the railroads are where the outfalls are. So there's some barrier there for the water to get out, and there was no way or no facility for an outfall because of the elevation. These construction of these wetlands and ponds, now we have to mechanically move it because of the elevation. Allows us to now introduce some of those things to draw the drainage into those areas. So, we've been working out the last 5 years hard as we can. That's a lot of money.
20 years, I would say. And the reason I'm saying that, the water from from Broad Street, Luce Avenue, from Montgomery Ward, comes over in Duffyfield. And that's the ditch behind my house.
And
That's where you get the floods from.
And there's a lot of areas in town, and this was one of them, where you had construction done in development prior to any stormwater rules, state or city. So you look at a newly developed area, and each parcel or the development has a stormwater pond, a collection point, their runoff then is great as a site that has no stormwater features. And that is why just like Jack Smith Creek, wetlands, you're trying to capture an area of built historically that has no stormwater treatment. And that's what we're having to do, is go back in and retrofit. We're limited by one, available land. You know, you don't want to start getting into trying to take land or buy land, but we're utilizing the sites that we have available to us right now. And fortunately, we had some opportunities in the area around Biddle to do some of this. And so, you know, we're an old town, so we can't, I doubt we'll solve all the problems in the next 5 years, but we're working the best we can towards that.
So what you're saying, your next phase, you are gonna talk about the residents over there, and like I said, the pond where I live in, and I don't know whether you're aware of that or not, most times,
That's right.
the water's so high, you can't even get over there, you can't get out of there. Last hurricane we had, I was in 5 foot of water.
And I don't doubt that, 'cause the water got almost to the railroad tracks, from Florence.
And the
and-
railroad child, I understand, it's not large enough to take the water out of that area. The railroad track.
When we have that kind of storm, there's very little we're gonna be able to do on a stormwater retention pumps, to counteract that type of storm. There's no way I can promise you that.
But what was the purpose of that $2 million pond they built up there off of, Sherman Street?
But he's saying that if you
You know what I'm
guys
saying,
make
what was the purpose of it?
it was to pump water out.
Well, it
On
does,
Sherman Street.
the first priority of that was treatment. That was where the main grant, but it does provide us with 2 pumps to help draw the water down faster after a heavy rain event.
And where this water's coming from, development over by Hedrick Yard, it's pouring water back into Daffodil. That's the big problem.
That's the
That
river
development.
itself.
That's the
At that
river.
point, the river's coming over everything.
When the
So
river-
when they built that development up so high.
You talking about Windy Hill, Windy Trail area?
Over
That
that
development?
area, yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of that, what we saw doing Florence was actually, let me stand for me, if you could, please.
I'll turn it.
But anyway, I've been over there for 40 years.
Well, you,
And I haven't seen no improvement in my neighborhood. 40 years or more. I've been over there getting.
do you remember back in, let's see, let me go back.
I remember Hazel.
All right, so you remember actually, I'm trying to get a good one before we actually
I
implemented the
remember all
form
of them. I had to leave my house.
system. You remember when North Hills used to flood every time the wind blew?
Yep.
Well, that improved since then, hasn't it?
Yeah, the water's coming back in Daffodil.
Well, it's not really. I mean, yeah, we do it in a standpoint of.
And that's what I'm saying. I can cut myself short. If you come over there in a high rain, you'll know. If you live over there, you will know. So, talk things or talk to the people that know. I live in the pond. So,
Would
you
be
got to
a
take over
good-
there and know.
The biggest help would be if we could get some traction to get bigger towers from the railroad would help a lot.
That's part of
But
it.
that
They got
takes a
right
lot
by
of
the
the
Daffodil
community.
School, that's where the water stays. There's no drainage when you leave, not Daffodil, but J.T. Barber School. The
Mhm.
water's
I know.
settling in that area
Would
for the
you
last
be-
20 years.
The public needs to get traction to get the railroad.
You know his concern.
Yeah, I know exactly what
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of the pond.
Yeah, you know his concern. You wanna get out of the pond.
Okay.
You know it, okay.
We
And
got
nothing
it
has
we
been
got it
done
covered.
in the last 40 years. But more water being put in that area. Coming from where, I do not know. And I'm really concerned about it. I'm done.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Question.
Any other questions?
Just my rough math. It looks like about $6.7 million has been invested, and I know you're trying to secure more funding. Timetable on the canal completion, Gulffield Canal completion.
The canal, the study should be done, I would think, probably by the end of the fall, winter time. They'll have some public outreach, some public comment period meetings available. And what they're gonna assess is where we can make improvements. There's a lot of private property along the canal, which limits our ability to do certain things, but this will give us a plan to have target areas where we can go after additional grant funding to make improvements.
Okay.
In which way you plan to run that canal? Or you don't have a plan?
Well, the Duffield Canal's existing, we're not just rerouting the Duffield Canal.
Are you familiar with the one way up from Montgomery right back Worthing Street run to Center Street. Is any improvement gonna be done to that?
Mr. Chair, I had to finish my question. I still had the floor, I still had it. I can still.
Excuse me.
Appreciate you still in there. As far as the canal project, as far as Florence, the water came, the 1809 Garden Street, Kinston, right there, that's where I'm at, okay? Water came from the canal back there, so our biggest concern with that side, I'm not over there for JT Barber, but right there, that's my concern as far as the canal before the next, can't do the Florence storm before the next hurricane come. I was just asking for the timetable, because that's where the water got us at.
Right, and I think a lot, the best feature that we, we're trying to get completed is the culverts at the East Road lift station.
Okay.
That is our primary source of backflow from the river.
Okay.
It is tied right to Jack Smith Creek and the Neuse River. So as the river rises, the water in that culvert that comes under the trade tracks rise. Okay. And if we can get proper gates that'll seal there,
Okay.
and we're looking at potentially there's a drop down step right there at the culverts, raising that road a little bit.
Okay.
That'll help us to a point.
Okay.
But we're only, we're restricted by how much we could counter a tropical system. We get a heavy tropical system and it inundates lots of places, and we can't stop the Atlantic Ocean from coming to
Okay. Thank you.
George and everybody, I'll thank y'all for your efforts to try to do what you can. I mean, I think my first introduction to you several years ago with Matt was an issue I was having out in my neighborhood, not in Duffield. But I think one of the things we have to keep in mind here is that everyone has their own certain issue that impacts them and it's the most dear to you. But all you guys can do is target the masses as best you can and try to minimize things. So, as Tabari just pointed out, millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to help the masses as best you can. I think it's not right of us to consider every single person that lives there and trying to address everything. If I could, you'd have a whole lot bigger pipe over by H.J. McDonald Middle School to catch that rain. I've been here on that plenty of times. But we're here to help the masses, and you're trying to do that. One of the things that I remember whenever this project first came up was an estimate, a number of the amount of rain that you would be able to take after this project with impacts being minimal. Has that estimate held true? And do you remember what that is now? So we have a general idea where we could blanket say, hey, you've seen all this work, we can hold an extra 4 inches of rain now, more than we could before, or whatever that number may be for the neighborhood in general.
The calculation that was provided to us was approximately 7 acre-feet of water. So if you consider that is if you have a 1 acre parcel, it will hold 7 feet of water all the way across that parcel. So when you're talking a 50-acre drainage basin, obviously that gets reduced. But now that we have larger pumps, we can deal with that water faster. And that's the biggest, we had no outfall for that area. So it would rain and sit on the ground. We had no way to get it to go to the river. And now this allows us to.
It was all a pond.
Yes.
And now
yes,
now you're moving part of it.
Now we can treat it and we can discharge it. Well, we did not have that opportunity before.
Okay, and from a road situation, the roads as they sit right now today, is that the final version of what that's going to be, or is there going to be more open closures, repair work, or anything of that nature to what's already been done?
I think at that triangle point where you have the acute angle right up as you're working towards Bill Street, we're considering some options there. We don't have any final design on what we want to change, but we do know that there is some issue right there. I will say in the last 5 years, and this is inclusive of areas right outside of the redevelopment district boundary, we've done approximately $1 million of paving in there in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we just finished some last month, another $300,000 that was ARPA enabled through Alderman Best, and that was just completed. So we've been doing some resurfacing work. We've also, there is a community development block grant that is working on Gaston Boulevard to resurface that and provide some sidewalks along Stanley White on that section. And like I say, none of this was inclusive of the FEMA work that went through that area too. So $2.1 million on Cat A, Cat D, and Jack Smith Creek. Now, Jack Smith Creek extends outside of this boundary, but that was what was done just for that drainage basin. So, you know, you start adding these numbers up, and there's been a considerable amount of either FEMA work or new construction or rework of the streets in those areas.
One more question, and I'll give my time. The Broad Street and First Avenue we're doing over by the Habitat Restore. You mentioned there's a different level of permitting required because that flows into the waterway. I'm assuming going down through the Shrink-Wart area on the way to Lawson's Creek. So with that being said, are you guys actively engaged with the Housing Authority on what that site redevelopment can be and what can be done proactively whenever that project finally goes forward to help flow water from that way in a better manner?
Right, and we have been involved with the consultants that have been working on the CNI grant. We actually have a meeting with them the first week of February to go over their final plans. Yeah, so ultimately, yes, we have been involved with that, and that is one reason you've not seen maybe some of the streets that will be in that area redone. Because the last thing we want to do is go spend money on infrastructure that's torn out for improvements that are coming. So we'll have a better idea once this grant opportunity, we know where we're going to land on that. So, but the one on Liberty has been a historic problem. I've lived here my entire life. I've seen that street flood every time we have a high intensity rain, and it's just a volume issue with the outfall. And like I said, with the permitting, anytime you get close to the river, permits change, and they increase on all levels. So the stormwater projects that are close to a blue line or a public trust water will have more oversight and more permitting requirements. Yes, yes.
All right. Thank y'all both
I
again.
have
Appreciate
one
that.
comment. You said that's the boulevard.
Yes, sir.
That's over by,
Stanley
the new
White.
rec center, right?
Yes, sir, right beside, on the other side of.
Yeah. Where would that water go?
There's actually inlets now that were constructed as part of the Stanley White project on Gaston that collected and put it into a retention area.
But the work he's talking about is the roadway, Commissioner.
But normally that water would go in the canal running all the way to Washington Street, 7th Street. That's where that water would go.
And it would go to the East Rose Pond ultimately.
But going through what route, you say?
It's gonna go through the Duffy Field Canal because that is the outfall collection point for that
I
area.
think the question you're asking is
But
the
that's the
direction.
area I'm in, that does
It's Brent's
be,
still putting some bark and then down
my
East Road.
neighborhood.
Yeah,
Right.
so
It'll
it's
go
going
right
to go
to
to 7th
the
Street.
park where the canal is, right at the.
What I was saying, that little water comes to my neighborhood. I'm boating my way out of there now.
And that's where that water goes now.
So what's the alternative to putting it another way? I'm going another route, I'm making a way. So you won't go through that neighborhood.
It's tough to buck nature and elevations.
I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, sir, I do. But I think the biggest benefit you will see is when we're able to complete these roads pond work, because that is the outfall of that water and the water that actually connects to your house. So once we have that completed, I think you'll see some improvement on normal drainage function in that area.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Appreciate your work.
Yeah,
All right.
appreciate it.
Thanks, George.
Keep the water flowing, man.
Good man. Got a list on geese.
Which way?
If you see him, chase him off.
Yeah, chase the geese off.
Yeah, I got a
If
lesson
we
on
get-
geese today.
And this is just a fun fact, if you allow them to nest in a place once, they always come back.
They gonna come back,
If
yeah.
you chase them off before they nest, then that'd be the best thing for them. Take the dog out there. just
I learned it, I learned it.
So-
Don't call me when you get stuck in there.
Y'all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. I'll take care. Appreciate
Stay
you.
warm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Habitat. Tracy had to go out of town, so we had to. We got the police chief here with some good news. Right, Chief? Good morning, first of all.
Thank you, appreciate it. We got up this morning, walked outside, and thank God for all the hair he put on my head to keep my head warm. You know how I feel,
I
right?
know how to do that.
So,
And I'm a little older than you, too.
Just a little bit, okay.
So let me introduce myself. I'm Patrick Gallagher, and I have the honor of serving some of the best police officers I've ever met in the 40 years I've been doing this with the New Bern Police Department. And we're an agency that seeks to be intelligence-led and evidence-based in what we do. And we try to leverage best possible industry best practices in how we deliver services to our community. We are and have been for 7 cycles accredited through the international body known as CALIA. And we are considered a flagship agency with respect to national accreditation. One of the things that I was challenged with this body was to provide some stats with respect to the boundaries of the redevelopment district. And does everybody have this chart? So if you would look at this chart, what you see is the boundaries in red. Now you might be asking yourself, well, Chief, what is that orangish circle in the middle? Now, I would ask that we keep this a secret amongst ourselves, if you would, but that is the official boundaries of our ShotSpotter program, which was implemented in 2024. The reason why we do not promote the actual boundaries of our ShotSpotter is we don't want the ne'er-do-wells in our community that would use firearms to settle their beefs with others to think, oh, I'm in a safe spot and I can utilize my firearm with impunity. We do not want that. But I will tell you that our ShotSpotter program, our ShotSpotter technology will alert us when there are shots actually fired at Union Point Park, which is much further from the official boundaries. This is the area in which we are guaranteed coverage. So as you can see, most of the redevelopment commission actually falls right in the middle of our ShotSpotter location. In fact, what we did in 2025 was there was a section in Trent Court that was not covered, and we learned this after the implementation, and we worked with Sound Thinking, which is the parent company of our program, and we asked them to bring their engineers back into New Bern so that we could develop a system by which we could capture all of Trent Court, which, as you can see, now exists. Now, one of the things I want to clarify or maybe make a quick statement, we find it a little bit disheartening to take a victory lap when it comes to reduction in crime, because any victim of a crime, especially a crime of violence, is somebody who is not going to see a reduction in crime as a positive because they themselves were victimized. So this is not a victory lap opportunity, but what I will share is over the course of the last several years, and I've provided some data going back to 2023 relative to the boundaries, is we have seen a reduction, and we have seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of gunfire or gun-related incidences in this area. And I can tell you that that is not by mistake. ShotSpotter has become an invaluable tool and resource to keep our community safe. And I will give you one quick example of why ShotSpotter is so critically important. That once we are alerted that gunfire has been detected, our officers will respond. We will respond not only to try to abate further violence and apprehend those that are engaged in illegal activity, but we will also check for those that might be injured. Roughly 80% of all shots that had been fired in the Duffy Field area went unreported. And of those 80%, if a victim lies injured and nobody had contacted the police. And notwithstanding the fact that oftentimes when we did receive calls for service about gunfire, it was in a general location. We would not know specifically where the gunfire was discharged. Now, we know exactly where the gun was fired, and not only do we know exactly where the gun was fired, we know how many rounds were fired. So we can go and we can check for the injured, because I certainly would not want to have been a person who caught a bullet and nobody's coming. And I would not be found until the morning until somebody saw. So there are added values there. One of the stats that I think just jumps right off the page is in 2023, just in the redevelopment district, there were 63 calls for service for gunfire. In 2024, we implement ShotSpotter. That went from 63 to 20. In the calendar year of 2025, we received 6 calls for service for gunfire in the redevelopment district. If there is a method by which to abate and reduce violence and ultimately homicides, let me restate that, murders, I say this because homicide is not illegal, murder is illegal, and there is nothing more critical than reducing the loss of life. And in the calendar year 2025, we did not have a single murder or homicide in the redevelopment district. And that's a critical element. One of the other things I would like to say, because in 2025 we were finally successful in bringing justice to the family in the memory of Neil Lonnie Sheptock, the 15-month-old who was tragically shot and killed based on gang violence. And it was not without an incredible amount of dedication and effort, not only by the New Bern Police Department, but by the federal agencies and state agencies to bring this case to justice. And she was killed on Main Street on the 4th of July in 2023. So we were incredibly proud of the fact that we were finally able to convince the district attorney to allow us to file charges against 2 of the suspects. One was local, one actually had relocated to Johnson, Tennessee, in which we worked with the FBI, and our staff went to Johnson, Tennessee to take him into custody and extradite him back to New Bern. New Bern has a far higher rate of clearance for murder than the average in the state of North Carolina. So you are more likely to be arrested and charged for murder in New Bern than you would anywhere else in the state, or at least as an average for the state. So we are proud of that. One of the strategies that we have, and we try to beat this drum as often as possible, is we cannot do this alone. Community policing is a milestone, not just for law enforcement, for the community. Community comes first in that tag. We need the community support. Neil and Sheptock's murderers would have been apprehended the night of the murder had we only had support from members of our community. So I believe that is a goal that all community members will share, especially with government, specifically law enforcement, and that partnership is critically important. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. What I provided you were basically part 1 crimes for a 3-year period, and as you could see, in 2023, the grand total was 173, and over the 2 years, it continued to reduce to a point where we're at now 127. 127 persons were victimized in 2025, and we pay great deference to their pain and suffering, and we hope that 2026 will be even less than that. So I stand ready to answer any of your questions. Yes, ma'am.
This is more curiosity, but so your shot spotter, shots fired are way down in the area where where we have the orange overlay. Did it spread gunfire just outside the redevelopment district or anywhere else in town, or, I mean?
No, so that's a great question. So if I can assume what you're asking me, did it only displace violence to another location? We did not see that in our city. No. In fact, if I can make one other point, early in 2025, we saw increased gang violence. We're talking March, April timeframe, in which we put a great deal of effort into abating that violence. And the word on the street was the New Bern Police Department and Craven County Sheriff's Office is not playing around. And it was basically a stand down order from the gangs, because they were not looking forward to spending time in Chip Hughes' hotel down on Clark Street. So, the gang members know that we exist, and they know that there's consequences. And we saw a huge reduction in violence after that. Now, the problem is the conditions that create gang involvement is beyond law enforcement's capacity to solve. Homelessness, drug addiction, lack of certain basic services, unemployment. These are conditions that create poverty. Poverty creates opportunities for gang recruitment. And we, law enforcement, are but one of the stakeholders in a much broader knot to untie.
Question, because, we're a redevelopment commission, and, we're trying to revitalize certain areas with homes, and eliminating abandoned homes, does that help you? Does that, and then putting in, the newer homes, or does it bring a different atmosphere, or bring different people in, or how does that affect?
Yes, so if you can eliminate, and this is broken windows theory in a practical sense. If you can eliminate the opportunities for the criminal element to thrive, and they thrive in places where they're not seen, they thrive in places where apathy within the community suggests that we don't care and we're not going to partner with. I can give you one example of what we've sought to do, and this includes our city attorney and the ownership of the 5 Points Market. We have worked with them in 2023 to establish some principles that they have to adhere to. From all intents and purposes, they've done what we've asked them to do. The problem is criminals will find a way. And to your point, if we can eliminate unoccupied housing and places for criminals to go to hide it and to secrete themselves in the community, that makes life a whole lot easier for us. Because when we patrol, it's very difficult to understand what is going on in areas that we cannot see.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Great. But what are we doing about crime prevention? Safety programs? I didn't hear you say anything about those areas.
We work closely with with our SROs to produce safety programs within school campuses. We also have a robust system in which we have PSAs. We do safety programs at.
Gee, you use. Everybody don't know what SRO and PSAs are.
Oh, I'm sorry. School resource officers on campus to provide a safety program. In 2025, we hosted 2 seminars, one for the elderly for scams, to help them prevent themselves from being victimized through scams. Because there are people that stay up late at night trying to figure out ways to separate you from your money, and they're very good at it. And so we do host seminars. We've hosted them every year, safety seminars, that we've done those. Youth programs that we've been involved in. I hope that was one way to answer that, but I can get a thorough list of the things that we have done. But those are the proactive means of trying to provide information to our community so that they don't become victims.
Okay, I just didn't hear you mention that. And one of my concerns, I am a senior citizen, where you know to not vote. I'm about 80 years old. And I'm concerned about dark places in town, people's on the corners. And I can check the sheriff place right now, the corner before the people standing. And what's been done about that? What kind of program do we have set up for those folks that go in the corner and stand all day?
What you're describing creates a very sensitive conversation and a reality in America in 2025. So standing on the corner is not illegal.
It's what you do in the corner.
Yes. So this is a delicate conversation to say, when did the law enforcement officer cross the line in civil rights when the spider sense goes off in the officer's mind, whether they're white or black, and they engage a person who, in their mind, seems suspicious. Being on a particular street corner at 2:00 p.m. is a whole lot different than the same set of circumstances a.m. And then there's this notion that you only stopped me because of my race, and you profiled me, and so that's a delicate situation. Now, the solution is not don't engage. That's called depolicing. And that happened quite candidly. It happened a lot in urban cities where police officers said, I don't want to be the guy on CNN tonight. I don't want to be accused, so I'm going to depolice myself. I'm just going to sit in my car. And I'll answer my calls for service, but that's about all I'm going to do. That's not the solution and the answer. The answer is to understand what you can do legally. The Fourth Amendment is probably one of the most important amendments for law enforcement. And to understand where the line is. And a lot of times it's about communications. How do you communicate with somebody? The other reality is our police officers know who our gang members are. We know who they are. And although being affiliated with a gang or being a certified gang member, those are two separate things from a legal perspective. But part of it is understanding who you're dealing with. And one of the stop and frisk failures was officers were stopping everyone, as opposed to being a little bit like the Israelis when they do their intelligence. They know exactly the types of persons they have to focus on, and they are more strategic. It's a little bit different between chopping a tree down with an axe and using a scalpel. You have to be strategic, and if you can do it the proper way, then you don't disenfranchise the person who just simply is not involved in criminality, but rather is just living in the community and trying to hanging out.
At 2 a.m.
Good outside.
You know, I was told something a long time ago that nothing good happens after midnight, and there is a little bit of reality to that. But thank you, Mr. Gentleman.
But you hit it right on the head. In the action with the police. The cop on the beat again. okay, I can ride, take my car and ride through town. I can, attend everywhere with somebody smoking dope. Instead of riding with the windows up, maybe they need to put the windows down. They can smell the dope where it's coming from. I smell it all the time. Not that I'm a sniff dog, but, I can smell, in my neighborhood, I can smell it anytime. I go out to Pleasant Hill, I can smell dope every time I come by that house, right across the road. Reefer have a tendency to follow the wind flow. So maybe instead of the guys rolling with the windows up coming through the neighborhood, let me roll the window down and beat the air. You understand where I'm coming from?
Oh, I know.
It make a difference, you can smell it.
There are some that would say, I wouldn't mind decriminalizing marijuana if it smelled like potpourri, but it's horrible smell, and people are like, I just don't like the stink of it.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, but we work under two basic principles when it comes to our authority. One is reasonable suspicion. And reasonable suspicion is nothing more than, is it more than a hunch, but less than probable that somebody's committed a crime, has committed a crime, is committing a crime, will commit a crime. That's that, okay, I can stop you temporarily and figure this out. You're not technically under arrest. In order to get to an arrest level, there has to be probable cause. And probable cause just means if there was a 0 to 100% standard, it just has to be above 50%. Now that's a movable target, but it just has to be probable. And the trier of fact will be a magistrate and a jury and a judge. And they work off a different standard. That's a proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard. So police officers work within that. So in terms of to what degree can we forcibly detain a person, it better be at that reasonable suspicion level. And so, and I'll give you an example. A car drives by and then all of a sudden, oh man, do you smell that? Boy, that was an earthy smell, right? Then you might say, did it come from that car? Well, it was the only car that drove by. But could that have not been carried by the wind? You got to start to think, man, I think it was that car, but I don't have enough. Now, if you see smoke coming out the window of the car and then you smell it, now you're in a different area. And so,
I hope all your officers think like you.
if you come into police headquarters, you're going to see we have stenciled the entire Fourth Amendment on the wall. We talk about the Fourth Amendment. We talk about search and seizure. All of these things are critically important to understand, because if you're going to be a practitioner in law enforcement, you better know that Fourth Amendment. Now, I'm here to tell you, I love the First Amendment. That's an American amendment. That's what makes us great. That First Amendment makes us great. And in the South, there's a fair number of us that think that Second Amendment makes us great. But from a law enforcement perspective, it's that Fourth Amendment. Then they say, what about the Fifth Amendment, Chief? Yeah, that's important.
Well,
Not as important, but that's important.
Tell them what the Fourth Amendment is, because
The Fourth Amendment is the amendment that speaks to search and seizures. Within search and seizures means force. Anytime an officer uses force, it falls under the Fourth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment deals with self-incrimination.
Where the probable cause fall in that
Probable
equation?
Probable cause is a Fourth Amendment issue dealing with seizures. You have to have probable cause to seize a person under most circumstances. There's always caveats to that. You can seize a person if you believe that they are a danger to themselves. That's where an IVC comes in, an involuntary committal comes involved. But for the most part with criminality, probable cause is a Fourth Amendment issue.
First, yeah.
Yeah, my question was two parts. One, when did the SRO's New Bern Police Department come out of the schools?
2021.
Why did they come out of the schools? And do you feel like that is a disadvantage to the inner city kids that the police department deals with versus most of the time the sheriff's department?
I'll answer that in two respects. One, that was a political decision between the county and the city. And I was not here for that debate, so I cannot give you any real guidance on the rationale behind that, because it, you know, every full-time employee, every FTE sworn employee, that's a cost to the taxpayer. And there was a belief that the city taxpayer is also paying county taxes, and I'm making an assumption on that. And that was better suited for the sheriff's department to handle all the SRO programs. Now, the second question, I've always been a firm believer that the law enforcement entity that patrols the community needs to be more directly connected to the school environment in which feeds that school. And the reason is not, I have great faith in the deputies that work in the Craven County Sheriff's Office, but the connectivity between the deputies and the patrol officers isn't there. That symbiotic relationship isn't as strong. Remember, our officers work on a different radio channel than the deputies work on, so we don't hear each other talk all the time. And they have different policies and procedures than do we. So we make it work. You know, it's one of those, you know, when God gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And we do the best we can.
Is that a conversation to be able to go back into the schools?
I believe that's a conversation for our political leaders, and if they do not have the appetite for that, then it's not something that I think is going to happen.
And a lot of times, you don't have that conversation until something bad happens, sometimes.
When you ask about the city of New Bern SROs, or just SROs in general? I missed the.
So the SROs are a county, they're the sheriffs.
Right, they're the sheriff.
They're not city police. They used to be city police.
All right, I got you.
And part of that decision was done to maximize personnel. I mean, obviously, for each officer, there's a big sum that comes for every personnel that you hire, and it came down to if you put in 3 or 4 officers or more in a school system, that's 3 or 4 more officers you don't have on the street, and budgetary restrictions. Not to say, as the chief has said, that it's not that the schools are getting cheated out of anything, but there's some funds associated with having officers in schools, and whether it's the police or it's a county, they're getting subsidized that income. But when all that was done with the previous chief, that was part of the consideration, was being able to maximize funds and maximize positions that you have across the 2 agencies.
Yeah, it just seems from a relationship standpoint that it would be better for the community. I think that's, we touched on that as well, but if it's not a conversation, then just good information.
Plus that adds into going back to what I think Mr. Dillon said, the community connection, working with police, because if I see you all the time, then I won't say you're my friend, but you could be a friend, you know what I mean? Yeah, if I see you in the schools all the time, then I see you patrolling, yeah.
Well, I will say, during that time, during that transition, I know the Craven County Sheriffs, they almost doubled in size, because when you get those officers in the school, when we go out on summer break, those officers hit broke, you see what I'm saying? So that was good. But I will say about the partnership between Craven County Sheriffs and the New Bern Police Department, when we hit that button, we're not waiting for the response time of the sheriff, because sometimes that can be 20 minutes and so spread wide. New Bern PD actually respond. They actually come. People think they don't talk, but when we hit that button and they know it's a situation on that, we have a panic button anytime it gets real ill on campus. New Bern PD is there first, because they're right there. So I can say, I know you can New Bern High Melee.
Right.
Okay, so I will say, even though it is they're on different channels, we hit that button, it goes to all sheriffs. We had a state highway patrol respond one time.
Right.
So kudos to that. Thank you for responding so quick.
Any other questions for Chief?
So Mr. Jones, I do want to talk to you for a minute, because I tried to call you 3 times yesterday, return your call, but I must have your wrong phone number. But don't ever think I ignored you, because I didn't. I tried to call you.
I was in touch with the mayor, the grant writer, the dean of North Carolina Central, but I let them know that I knew I would be in touch with you. So we'll get together, sir.
Okay.
No problem.
Any other questions?
I have an important assignment to do, so.
Yeah, appreciate it. And Chair, if you want to let them a little bit of a break for a minute,
Yeah, okay.
then I'll reposition the camera.
Okay. Marvin, it's on you.
We have, the next one was,
Number 12? I'm sorry, number 11, which was attorney presentation.
right. With this, obviously, the attorney's is not present, and we weren't doing anything legal. We were just gonna go over some of the questions that you all may have. As in your packages, we gave you all the information regarding what your responsibilities are, as well as the establishment of the organization. And just to put that out there to see if you all had any questions on, I know we have a couple of new members, if they had any questions, or even some of the older members, if you all have questions as to what you can and can't do as a redevelopment commission, we're more than happy to have a discussion about that. One thing I would say, all of you all met Mr. Commissioner Dove. He's the newest one to just come on, and with the understanding that you're taking over the leftover portion of what Commissioner Bryan has, but at the end of that, your role at the same time, Commissioner Morgan's role in 2018, I believe.
That's right.
Believe those are your dates.
Now, the other thing,
2000, August of 26.
26, okay.
Yeah, and then at that time, each one of you all's terms obviously lasts for 5 years. Also, the information in there establishes that, you all have 9 positions, and we're currently full now. But any questions or concerns, we'll be more than happy to try to answer those, or have a discussion about. We've had recently, you all will get situations where someone will purchase a property and then they want to sell their property to someone else after they purchase the property. Oh. 1 second, maybe this is a cheat call. Yes, sir.
One other thing while you're doing that, we are, discussion comes up all the time about people buying property, and you got a year to do it.
A year or
Now-
24 months?
Huh?
Is it a year or 24 months?
A year.
A year to start.
A year to start. A year to start. And we do have the privilege of expanding it or making it longer, extending it, or we could just make it, known to the developer who's going to do it that, hey, if you get to a point where you can't do something, you need to keep us informed of why you can't. And then maybe it might be easier for us to say, okay, fine. If you got a problem, because I think once before, strictly we had to think about some property lines or some surveys or something that delayed some other folks from getting something. So it's like, I think we need to, begin to think about that as we move along. How lenient are we going to be as keeping people in line of a time limit? And I don't know, how somebody would think about that, because, I've had 2 or 3 calls in the last 2 months about they want to buy some property, where, you got a year to start something. And one gentleman said, well, I want it, but I can't get nothing going for a year. And I don't want us to begin to, I want us to be so lenient that, and so understanding that, so hard that we just, okay, buy property, I know you're gonna do something. And then a year and a half, 2 years, they don't do anything.
I think Jamie said 1 to 2 years, I think.
But
Yeah,
1 year to start,
Yeah.
1 year to start. So,
Well, Steve, sorry.
Steve?
So I like the idea of there being a time limit, just leaving it open-ended, that's begging for trouble,
Right.
especially whenever part of our goal behind it is to facilitate development.
Right.
With that said, there's also been plenty of lots that we've sold where we know there's gonna be no development because the person next to it is just buying it to have, and we put restrictions on it where they can't do certain things, and
Right.
that's it. So, those two thoughts are almost incongruous, because you're selling one piece to one person and saying, we know you're never gonna develop anything, you're selling something else to someone and saying, you got a year to do it.
Right.
So we have to zoom out and think big picture as to what the goal whenever we sell the property is. If our goal is to facilitate development, then maybe we need to reevaluate, do we sell property to people just because they own the lot next to it and they
Right.
don't want somebody coming beside them?
Gotcha, yeah. And that's kind of, but, you know, we got something printed, but, you know, as we go along and some of the challenges that we face, some things we may want to change. Or we may want to, you know, redesign some things.
I do
Right.
think,
No, Sarah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I do think though there's something to be said for if, you know, so you can have two different sort of paths. So there's something to be said for wanting the lot next door to you, then, you know, you're gonna put a fence around it for your dog, you're gonna have a place for your kids to play that's not in the street, you're gonna keep it up, you're gonna mow the grass, you're gonna build wealth for your family, because owning land's gonna build wealth. I think that's a fine goal, and I think you can differentiate between, you know, we put restrictions on this, we don't want you to just keep an empty lot in the middle of nowhere when you told us you were gonna develop it. You know, so to me, I can sort of have different buckets there, but
So is our path on that then, if a neighboring property owner wants to buy it, then we sell it to them? And with nothing attached, no requirements to build, otherwise we have requirements?
I mean, I think you can, I
There's
think
two
it's sort
tiers
of
to what you're
factual, but
saying.
yeah, I think I can absolutely like factually distinguish the two scenarios, yes.
And I think what you all done historically is buildable lots, you all have sold as buildable lots, that you have a requirement almost to the larger lots. The smaller ones that really you can't build on, those are ones that you all have just made the condition that you can't use it as a storage lot for vehicles. So I don't think you all have done, I mean, that's the great thing about what the redevelopment commission can do that the city can't do. You can make those conditions. If you got a buildable lot and someone said, hey, I want to expand my property, and it is a buildable lot, you could always make a condition like, you can't sell this lot for profit or whatever. Meaning someone says today, I want to just expand my property, and then a year from now they say, okay, I want to divide it back up and now sell it as a piece of property. You can always make conditions that no one's going to profit off of the redevelopment commission like that. But I don't think you all had that situation, but it's good to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And the dichotomy there actually is, just like Sarah said, you can have the two tiers, what we don't want and what these conditions do guard against. And it's been great, because it's going on in Pembroke right now, whether people know it. They got that Highway 70 corridor come there. There's a firm buying up property in Pembroke and waiting for the corridor to complete, because those property values will start rising. They're just sitting on the land. And that's what's driving up the rest of our rates for mortgages and, I mean, the rest of the housing, you know, the housing prices and all. Once you buy and sit on that land, now the rest of the houses go up. And that's what's going on in America right now. These big firms with limitless cash, and they're buying up these properties. But what this is doing is guarding against it,
Right.
so that we actually have people go in, like the Bloomfield Street property. Now, that was
Right.
federal regulations that did that. But we had people asking left and right because we sold it, you know,
Right.
under what we paid for it.
Right.
But somebody would have jumped in there and bought that quick, doubled it up. You see what I'm saying? Now they're making a profit off the redevelopment.
At the same time, they would have probably developed it, but it wouldn't have been for affordable.
Right. It's all profit. It's just
Right,
profit
wasn't
gouge is what
affordable,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
Reg?
I want to ask, has there been over in the redevelopment area, has there been a conscious effort for the property to be sold to people in that community or in that lying area around it, adjacent?
Well,
Or the historical people that live or have lived there?
well, in the past, the properties that we have sold, but the Eubanks Street, that was the first project that the redevelopment commission did when they moved the house. And
That was the person that lives in the community.
that
one we
person
sold,
bought
yes.
lived in that community.
Yes, he lives in the
community. the other property that, like for instance, Mr. Jarvis, he's from Pamlico County, I think. But he wants to do houses here in the Redevelopment Commission. I don't know, you all can, members that being involved, I don't know of anyone that's living in the Redevelopment Commission has come to us to buy the properties.
See, that's what I'm saying.
And I know there's one or two in the Redevelopment Commission that wanted to sell
I
it
haven't
to
been
us.
with this body, but from the short time, I'm seeing blocks of properties being sold or bought, you know, by people maybe from outside the community.
Right,
Therefore, the community is being diminished from the community within.
Yeah.
And I just want, and it may wind up having to be that way.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, has there been a conscious effort from this body to try and have it being sold to people from that community, or maybe the people that live adjacent to that community, that have come from that community?
Yeah,
You see
Reg,
what I'm
I'll
saying?
be honest with you.
That
I
has
don't-
a historical tie
Right.
to that community.
Reg, I don't think we have pushed that.
And I don't know that you can.
You
from
can't,
like
you're
a
gonna get
discriminating
discriminated,
civil
is what you're
rights.
doing.
I
You can't
I
do
don't
it.
know that you can do that.
Right.
Once you put a sign up for sale,
Anybody,
you know that
everybody.
community,
That's
you
right.
know it's for sale.
Yeah.
That's right.
So if you got interest in it, you're gonna reach out yourself,
That's right.
because the sign is on the property.
Well, I'm
that
just
it's
saying,
for
when
sale.
you're trying to redevelop that area, there's a historical tie to that area that you may want to try
Right.
and redevelop that area. Like I said, people from Pembroke have family in that area that still may want.
Pembroke not in the zone,
If,
right?
you know, if you try and have a tie to it. I understand what you're saying from the legal perspective. You can't only sell to a person from that, but there is, like I said, a conscious effort that there is a cultural tie to that area still, that people feel sometimes it's a gentrification perspective that some people feel that is happening to the area. So when we're talking about wanting to redevelop that area, I think there's a consideration of a thought that maybe you want to see that area remain historically to the people that have grown up in that area or have a tie to that area, so to speak.
But now you got to remember too, some of the people that live in that area may not be able to afford to build or buy. Listen now, build or buy, and at the same time develop it so that someone for low income can rent it.
I respect that, and that's why that low
Absolutely.
income that you just said, that's why we do have a perspective for economic development in that area that should go along with the work that we're doing
Right.
in that area. So the people in that area don't have to be a low renter in that
Understand
area.
that, yeah.
So that's a work that we should be doing as well.
Right.
You see.
I have a couple questions, but to Mr. Jones's point, I definitely understand what you guys are saying. I understand what he's saying. I think more so, and it's an action item I wrote. I mean, I think people gotta be educated. I don't think people are educated on what's going on in the area. People that live there, people are not educated on what exactly is happening in that area. So I think that with education, people knowing, what's happening, it would help out to what Mr. Reggie's saying, and it doesn't matter if you're white, black, green, purple, if you got the information and you can make the decision, and if you have the resources to be able to do what you're doing. I guess my first question was, the signs that are popping up on the lots, who's putting those signs out? Are we?
That's city property. That's not us.
That's city property. Okay.
Yeah, right. Am I right, Marvin? That's the city doing those.
So all this little lot that has a little QR code,
Right.
those are city property.
Right. And they don't have restrictions like the redevelopment commission.
Got it. Understood.
Yeah,
All right.
sit on
Second
it.
question is, what is the process on if someone has bought a property from the redevelopment commission, it's been to 2 years, what is the process on that property coming back to the redevelopment commission, and who initiates that, and has any of those been initiated? 3 questions. And then I noticed up here it says property sold. In 2025, we're going to discuss that, but of the properties that have been sold, there are specific notes in here from Zeb that says, there's some lots that have not been developed. Not to get into that, I'm just wanting to know, what is the process on those coming back to the redevelopment?
If there's a condition on there for building to occur within a year and it hasn't happened, that's when we get the attorneys do up the proper paperwork to.
Who initiates that? The ED would?
I mean, yeah, I would, whoever the ED is would let the attorney know that they are outside of the reversionary clause, and then the attorney. Now, some of those that you may be looking at says no development, there may be lots that are.
Cannot develop on.
Yeah, that may not have.
No, I understand. I think I don't want to get stuck on his notes. I guess I'm more concerned with understanding like the properties that you're selling, that people aren't just, that there's actually development that is happening with the properties that you're saying you want to develop. There are situations where, I know someone in the barbershop said to me the other day, they've spoken with you, they want to buy a property.
Right.
Similar to what,
Sarah.
Sarah said, where they want to hold the property because it might be next to their lot. So
Correct.
there's two different situations, but I guess I'm more concerned with trying to see the development actually happen in the neighborhood for whoever's doing it, right?
Right.
So there's been a lot of time spent on what the redevelopment commission can do, what the statutory regulations say, where if you really look at it, and again, I probably said an unpopular thing, there hasn't been a lot of wins, in my opinion, with the redevelopment commission because you don't see a lot of houses going up in the neighborhood.
Well, and some of you all have a little more experience with this than I do, but what I will tell you from my understanding since the time I've been here, obviously, we started, this program started in 2018.
Yep.
And then you also got tying COVID in there, which slowed the brakes a little bit. And I'm not making excuses for it, but there was a group of housing that they were trying to develop for the Avenues A project, which is never been really formalized, but it's a theory that they have like 20-something lots that the thought was, let's hold these and see what we can do with a major project. I agree that a lot hasn't happened. Most of the wins for this, which we'll talk about when we get to that section, were enhanced or assisted by the alderman's ARPA funds and such. So those are some of the wins. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I've had this discussion with the former director to say, hey, we may be at a point where let's start pushing those lots that are on the not sellable list, open those up because those are some of the more desirable lots, and start letting people go for those as well. I mean, it's up to the board if you all want to give direction that we can start putting redevelopment commission signs up on those lots so they're more visible to everyone, that those lots are for sale. Also, in conjunction with what you're saying about someone having a lot and wanting to hold on to it, I think that basically defeats what you all are doing in the sense that if someone says, hey, I can't start building for a year and a half, as a recommendation, I'll say, okay, 6 months from now, come back and see if the lot's still available, because within that 6 months, you may have somebody who can, I mean, I would never hold a lot for more than what you all are currently doing.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a loaded thing. I guess my initial question is, and I don't think it's clarified for me, is, well, I guess you did clarify, is that if there's a lot that's sold and it's within the time frame and the work has not been done, then that responsibility is the executive director will initiate the process on acquiring that property back or seizing that property, whatever that looks like.
Exactly, unless that person comes and asks for
Extension. Right.
Then two, it seems like there's a variable that has not been addressed where there is people that are purchasing a property with the mindset of holding the property or attaching the property to their current parcel, or having the property because it's next to their parcel, versus a person that is purchasing and saying we're going to develop on it. So it sounds like that to me, that would need to be addressed because, like sooner than later, because you have people that want to purchase a property next to them but have no desire to develop the property. Then, to your point, it does not benefit what we need to see happen,
But for them, maybe, as you know, someone else said, they can't afford to do it, maybe they can just afford the acquisition, is something put around that parameter to say, okay, well then, you have to go through the process, this is as an example, to me that would make sense. You have to go through the process of having it surveyed and conveyed with your current parcel, so now it's one parcel versus you own this separate parcel over here, and you own this parcel here, but this parcel actually could be developed, but you didn't do it. So make them have some buy-in and tie those two parcels together would make sense to me. But I guess my bigger
Well,
stance.
let me
Yes.
point. Okay, say today I decide that I do that,
Mhm.
and then a year from now, I'm like, I'm not gonna build. I go back, go right
So
back to
it's
the
not-
tax office and get those properties separated. Now I have that property. It's gonna be a lot of conditions. You all don't wanna get,
You're saying that. So
that
you're
same
saying
person that you combine them, you can separate.
Subdivided again.
subdivide them again
Yeah,
to come
you
back
can.
inside. Yeah, I see, my mindset would say that wouldn't necessarily make sense for that. Well, you can't say what makes sense for that.
Right.
It wouldn't, so the conversations that have been brought to my attention, and I think that are gonna continue to come as I'm listening, those people don't have a desire to develop on that property. They don't want nobody else to develop on it, so they want it to be a part of theirs. I guess that's something that seems like the board's gonna have to come back and address.
But that'd be you all. Yeah, I mean,
Right,
if you all have the confidence that that's what's gonna happen, I can't tell the board, but if you got a majority of the board to say, hey, we believe this person in good faith, this is what they're doing. I mean, we currently have a situation similar to that someone wants to purchase a property, not build on it, and it's a business organization. It's not to build a house, is to expand their business, and it's a property they have everything else around it, and it is a buildable lot, so it would be up to the board to say, hey, you know, when this property becomes available, if it becomes available again, do you all want to make that decision as a majority board to say, I feel comfortable letting this potential buyer purchase this property and just expand what they have as opposed to building a house for someone who can have affordable housing there.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know,
And Curtis, I don't want to cut you off, but let's take this idea. Help me with this. Your question, your idea is good. We need to pursue that. I think that's something that we need to sit down with when we get the new executive director in. Because some things, we're at a point where we just need to get the executive director who has the experience to help us through this.
yeah.
And I think that's be something that we will put on the agenda when we meet with the new executive director to help us with. I mean, go ahead, finish
Yeah,
up.
I understand that.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up because we need to know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I had a lot over there, I might well want to buy the one beside me just to increase my territory.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess
put me a
this,
gazebo maybe.
On the road.
Or garage, you know.
if you allow me to finish just my statement, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, everybody, time is the most important thing to me. So I don't want to spend a lot of time at this table talking and not seeing production. It's not going to work for me.
I understand that,
to
Curtis.
me-
We understand that.
Hold on. So to me, what I'm saying is, this is my second or third meeting. I have to have a clear understanding, based on the rules and regulations that's set before us, on how we go about making and seeing structures go up in the redevelopment zone. And to me, whatever the formula is, again, I'm trying to step on your toes, the proof is in the pudding. You ain't got a lot of houses going up in these areas. Zeb's left a list of potential people that have been buying in the area, right? So to me, I'm just trying to get to a point where it's saying, okay, hey, understanding that the redevelopment commission spent a lot of time thinking they can build and lease and manage and all this other stuff. Now we're at a place, you're almost 10 years in. So now it seems to me that we have to have work these partnerships with people that are trying to buy these lots so that we can see redevelopment get done. That's purely what I'm saying.
The thing, though, Commissioner Stewart, is you just sold 4 lots, you just agreed to agree for 4 lots. I think those gonna be 4 potential structures that are gonna go up. The second part to that, I will look into the properties that have been sold to make sure they're all in compliance with whatever the restrictions
It
are.
looks like we're gonna do that as a part of A.
Yeah.
This property sold in 2025, right?
We're gonna look over the ones that I mean, I think there's 3 or 4, whatever.
That have been sold in 2025?
The list of ones that, I'm not sure if we have the whole list or not, but I'll go over that. The other part was, the redevelopment commission didn't have a whole lot of properties. They went to the county for the county to let them, to basically give them 10 lots. And some of the lots that you all are thinking about that may be adjacent to someone else's property they were acquired because they think, hey, these are good lots for us to do some redevelopment, put some homes there. Now, if you all go back and say, hey, we just want to expand somebody else's property, the county's gonna say, you know what, we could have done that, we could have given them those lots. You all were supposed to build on those, or you're supposed to do something with them, so you don't want to now use these lots because you all acquired them through the county's donation.
Yeah, you're speaking to exactly what I'm saying. And so what I'm saying to you, and I get this, I get the political semantics of who owned it, who didn't own it. Remember, and I don't know if you were here then, I came to the table and I had to go through a lot of foolishness because one person owned it, the county owned the city. So now it's since been, and I can go back into the archives, where now these properties are owned by the Redevelopment Commission, okay? All I'm saying is, in a nutshell, is we need to, we have to work, whether it's white folks, black folks, green folks, whoever can afford it. We need to be working with, to me, the list of people that are trying to buy these properties in the neighborhood to see some redevelopment actually happen. To your point, yeah, you just sold 4 lots. I'm interested in hearing the property sold in 2025, because I see there's 2 houses that's been put up over there. There's one off of Main Street, which is a high-rise, really nice house, which is actually one of the prototypes that they're talking about back in 2018 from NC State. It's one of those prototypes, and then there's another house that is the gentleman that we just conveyed the property to on Bern Street. So when you really look at what's happening over there, you don't see, unless I'm missing it, I'm not seeing where these houses are going up at. So for me, seeing some houses go up and educating people on what's going on are really what my angle is on this board. I just don't want to sit here and then at the end, this board is dissolved and then people point the finger saying, you on the board, it ain't nothing happen.
Curtis, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Please, hold on one second.
Mhm.
I understand your statement.
Mhm.
I understand you want something to go and move.
Mhm.
I understand that. But you gotta understand, some things are not that easy. You're saying developers, get with the developers. Who's come to us to buy the property?
Well, he's giving you a
I
list
mean, but
of 20 people.
okay, but I'm saying this is not a overnight thing that's gonna go just like that. It's just and you know, and I was a little offended when you said we ain't done that. I was offended, but I'm gonna cut that conversation short, and we go from there because
Everybody has their right to an opinion.
I understand that. And my opinion was I was offended when you said we ain't done nothing.
I'm sorry you're offended. But
No, you ain't gotta apologize.
But also
You ain't
listen to
apologize.
this. You also ain't been on the board the whole time, right? So what I'm saying to you is when you go back and you look.
But you're saying the speed that we're going, I was here 3 years, so I would assume my 3 years we ain't done nothing either.
Allow me to finish my statement if you don't mind. It's not a personal attack to you. What I'm simply saying is that when you look at redevelopment, and I have been following this since it started, okay? There has not been a lot of wins for this commission. The biggest win that you had was really through Bobby Astor giving his funds to then turn and build 3 houses that he ultimately sold to the housing authority. That's the biggest win. The second thing that has happened is the property on Eubanks Street that went through, God knows, the loss that the redevelopment took on it because you couldn't even sell it at market value. To me, I don't even want to get into the craving community thing because that, to me, again, sure, people will be offended. I'm fine with that. That to me is more of a Craven Regional Hospital thing than a redevelopment commission thing. Because there was a house that was tore down that could have been used for housing in the community. So again, what I don't want to do, and I'm sorry if you're offended, but it's not a personal attack to you. All I'm saying is, for time purposes, let's make sure, as this is supposed to be a retreat, that we have clear and precise understanding of the protocol, the people that we need to be working with, which it looks like Zeb left quite a few people in here that have contacted. It would seem to me that we need to be targeting and working with those folks so that ultimately we can see some houses go up in that community.
Well,
Period.
go ahead.
So we are not only for housing. We have several other.
Yeah, we
have
got a
several
whole
other-
other thing going
I
on.
understand
Okay,
that.
so, hold on, let me have my minute, please. So we used to have committees, okay? So we had a housing committee, we had a health committee,
Yep,
different committees
and
for
we achieved
things.
all of
Maybe
those.
we went to more of a project base, and I feel like we're floundering around a little more. I'm wondering if maybe we go back, you obviously care the most about housing and don't care about the others. Do you want to chair the housing
I won't
committee?
say, so let's
And
be
that's
fair.
how we can kind of move things forward on housing.
I won't say that I don't care about the other things. I'm saying that a redevelopment commission and this redevelopment and the housing component is something that is the forefront of it, and that has not been a lot of development.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's what I'm
But so today is a strategic planning. Let's plan how the best way to go forward is. So you obviously care about housing. So you say Zeb left us a list of 20 people. I've
We
not
ain't never seen it. Never seen it.
Hold on. It's in
No, he just emailed it to us, but
I
when he
don't,
was
I
out,
don't
he
have
didn't
it.
hear
I
that.
still don't have what you're talking about at all. I've never seen that.
Well,
But
I don't
point
take a shot
A,
at the whole
that I've
commission
never
like that.
understood my job on this commission to be to call developers and reach out to developers and do all this side work. We come here, we give the ideas just like any board of any other organization, and the executive director and, his staff, if there were one, carry it out. Okay, so we're here to give them direction on what our next initiatives are, and they carry it out. It was Zeb's job, and he did it, obviously. He has 20 people. Zeb was talking to those people all the time. He's only not been here for a month or two. So we've had a month or two that nobody's doing that. If you want to take that up as part of your job to do that on the side for free, go for it. But I don't understand that as my position as a commissioner on a free, board I volunteer my time on. My job is to sit around the table and have side conversations and do, so we used to have project teams and do side meetings during the month. Happy to pick that back up. I feel like we have been putting less time into it since we disbanded the committees. So maybe we do that. That's fine. We can talk about that structure today. But just saying we haven't done anything is not, that there's been, you can go back and watch, even since Sharon and I got here in 2022 on the same day, there's just been hurdle after hurdle after hurdle.
Right.
When we said yes to taking the CDBG funds for the Eubanks house, we were given bad information by the current director. We had no idea what we were up against, and it ended up taking forever. And we, the Redevelopment Commission, didn't take a loss. The CDBG funds were used for it. It was not money we had on the books. It was free government grant money. And yes, there's absolutely a loss there that's now attached to that property. But that's not, we didn't spend any Redevelopment Commission funds on that project that to me wasn't a failed project. Was it absolutely frustrating as a person who's a commercial finance lawyer and my deals closed in 1 month? Yeah, it's absolutely frustrating that it took 2.5 years to get that sold. But it is what it is. We're up against the government, we're up against the barriers we're up against, which I've had to learn. I'm not happy about them either. But I think it's not constructive to come in here and say that the health thing was a fail. I mean, you said that was more of a craving community. The ball busted his ass on that.
Really.
No problem also torn down during that project, man. You keep talking something you don't know.
That is not factual. So let's make sure we're clear.
You just said that was a craving region, and I'm like, that was a...
So let me speak to that, okay? Thank you very much. So let's be clear. And again, I don't mind saying the unpopular things. I am so fine with that, okay?
Get your
Don't rush me through it. This is the time that we come here to make sure we are productive in what we got going. There was a meeting back at the Doublefield Residence Council meeting, okay, where people in this room here pushed to have that house tore down. all right? We already knew that by your current mayor, that wellness center was never going in that location. It was a bad location. They didn't go there. Yes, you did.
That is not true. We did not know that.
Can we have a conversation without being interrupted?
Finish, Curtis.
Okay, so there's a text message that I shared with an individual at this table that showed what was gonna go in the location that it's currently at. The city was not gonna support it going in the location that was recommended, and that house was tore down.
Well, can I add something to that?
Sure.
The thing which you're referring to is when the particular persons you named said it wasn't gonna go there, there was no support from the hospital to put it there, because their goal was to build something that could be expanded upon. That particular piece of property is not suited for the expansion.
Correct.
So that's when that changed. Originally, that was the plan.
That
was
was
to
Johnny
go there.
Crumb's lately.
And then as it developed, they say, hey, we're gonna want to have something that would be expandable. So it wasn't originally that it wasn't gonna go there. Originally, it really was gonna be something there, but then when they had the opportunity to build something that's a better project, that's when that other property came available and that discussion started.
It was understood by the powers that be that it wasn't going there. Mr. Reggie, if you would allow me to finish, and I'm going to digress after I make this point, okay? It was understood by the powers that be that it was not going there. It was blatantly said in the meeting that it was not going there. A house got tore down in the black community that could have been used for the purposes of housing, okay? So then we turn around, and then the Craven Regional Hospital, East Carolina, was willing to do that, and there was a conversation from the beginning. It was not gonna go on that location. To me, in my opinion, which I have been entitled to, just like everybody else at this table, to me, that was the resources from them to do that. So if we wanna say the Redevelopment Commission had a win, well, that's great. What I'm simply saying to you is this here. When you go through the Redevelopment Commission zone, just tell me how many houses you see that have went up in that area. That's simply what I'm saying. I'm asking for us to educate people.
Can we just, let's start right here. All right, this is a new board. Some of the wins that have finally started to come to fruition are now starting to happen. Like I said, the 4 lots that you sold today is from work that this board has done to get to this point. So even the discussion about the Bloomfield property, that was a project that was in the works. I mean, to include over $300,000 that was given to the Redevelopment Commission to develop that property. That was a project that was going forward until there was a better prospect laid on the table, and that was due to the partnership with the hospital. But we're talking about, everyone probably won't disagree with you. There hasn't been enough progress to where everyone would say they would like to be, but I think moving forward, we have a good team. We have, within the next year, you should have 4 more pieces of property that's gonna start developing. And I think we're in a better place than we were 2 years ago.
And just to address the first 3 years of the Redevelopment Commission was a lot of learning. A lot of things changed, the rules changed a little bit for us, didn't it, Sharon? We thought we could do this, and then we couldn't do it.
Right.
But we first started out with courting large developers. That first 2 years, y'all remember that? NC State came in here and did a big presentation. They was going to redevelop, and they were going to do all this. And moving forward, whoever's going to head up the housing committee, if we reinstate that, developers, the major ones, are looking for strips of land. See, you remember when we were doing that? They're looking for strips of land, and a lot of our land is disjointed, which brings us to where we are today, trying to do single plots and single homes. So the first 2 years, to the credit, the wheels were rolling very slow the first 3 years, because again, our trajectory was different. We were really trying to go with the big bang, the big massive, the big apartment complexes.
Like I think Jimmy on his Avenue project, he's stringing along a lot of them to get them to get a development, and then we can develop it like that. So it's a lot of learning curves. But again, I know of 5 families right now that are in homes due to the work of this redevelopment commission. So that's not a fair. 1 person in a home because of the redevelopment commission, that's a win. That's a win, especially the the Eubanks property. Now we really helped the family out right there. Now we went through a lot to get them in there.
And some things that for us may seem easy is not easy. And there's some things that, like I said, you had a director that stayed here, maybe less than a year, and that changed. And then when we start doing some other things, you find out from the statute, there's some things you can't do, so that slowed you up.
Yep.
And then you had COVID, then you got other things.
Yep.
Then you got property that you sold that now some of the developers don't want to do it. So this commission cannot, I don't think, based on what I've seen since I've been here, this commission cannot, or I should say hasn't, turned over properties, sold properties as fast as you might want them to do. That's just it. We just haven't done it. The Redevelopment Commission is something brand new for the city of New Bern. We got a jump start when we had executive director like Zeb. That was a big jump for us. Now we at a point where we kind of like on hold till we get another director, but some things we got in place, we're hoping that they continue to go. But this, you know, I'm hoping that each one of us as board members can come to this table with ideas and not pointing fingers. Come to this table with, hey, I've researched this. How you think it would work with the Redevelopment Commission? Reggie, you working on something. Reggie said he might want to bring something to the table for the Redevelopment Commission to be a partnership. So wherever we made mistakes or where we're lack on or slipping on, it's the board members should come to the table and say, look, I think we need to do that. I think we need to change this. I think, come with some ideas. Come with some ideas to help us out. That's all I'm asking.
Right.
Just to help us out. Just to help us out.
Sure.
I'm sorry, to help us,
sure.
all of us.
Sure thing. So just to be clear, it's not a finger pointing thing at all. There's people that were on this commission from the beginning that are no longer here. There was an ED, I think Katricia that was here before. But what I will offer to you that I think that everyone needs to be very mindful for is the literature. Your assistant attorney, and I'll provide you the document if you like as well. When this commission was established, she informed us that there was some consultants that should be used out of Raleigh so that you knew the proper procedure to do things. So when we say, hey, we didn't know, there was guidance that just wasn't followed. Can't do anything about it now. I understand that. But what all I'm saying is, sitting here on a Saturday morning, and as we go forward, I just want to be clear that I'm not interested in being a part of the ending result that the community sees and it has not progressed the way that it should be.
I don't think that's going to be that way.
And I understand that. So all I'm saying is, can we just make sure that some of these loose item things that are there, such as the sale of a property, if the person is going to use the property for this, if they can't use it for this, there seems to be some gray areas that are still there. And I'm just saying that I would like to have policies, procedures that we're following, that we need to revamp, so at the end of the day, that we can see some houses go up in the redevelopment commission area. That's simply my point.
I think
Sir?
Yeah, Reggie.
We are here to be a redevelopment commission for an area. There's more than just one thing that we're supposed to be doing. It's listed here.
Right.
Narrative come from more than one person. Self-interest is not supposed to be the primary goal of just what we are out and want to do. We're supposed to be, if it's an idea that comes to the table, we all should be able to have an opinion about it. If we're working on housing, That's not the only goal for the redevelopment commission. If we're talking about housing, and I'm using this as an example, economic development should go with it. If we're talking about health and wellness, there's a lot that goes along with that. And everybody can have an opinion on it. You see? So if you just got one interest as a goal here for you, that can't just be your way or how it should be. And coming along on something because somebody told you something or you thought something and you coming in on the tail end of it, you can't beat everybody else over the head about it. When you just think it's your way or the highway, that's not going to get us anywhere on things like this. We've worked on projects. Other people have worked on projects. And just because you heard something or thought something about it, that don't make it true. So we need to work together on things. Sometimes the narrative has to change about what we may thought process and procedure may have been laid down before. We come to the table to make some changes for the betterment of the people that we're supposed to be trying to serve out there. It's not just what we want. So we're supposed to go and help the people. Sometimes it's their decision is what we need to try to work for. That's why I do work with the Residents Council and put it on my application that when I come to the Redevelopment Commission, I'm still working with them. Because they're the final on this. And so yes, just like Julius said, I do have a project, but I asked him how we supposed to bridge the gap between the two. Tabari and I worked on the health and wellness.
For years.
He worked from a position, and he know at the time, and I need to say this, because we need to clear the air on this. When that project and Mr. Williams here worked at the time, from the time some of that started to how it wound up, it didn't wind up how when I started, because when I was walking out the room, he said, no, we can't drop this project. It wasn't about because it came out of my head, but it was the work that some of him, that he did from the redevelopment, that I still did from the Residents Council.
Sure did.
No, it didn't wind up what I wanted, but it didn't wind up what you think either, brother, because it started somewhere before it ever, information got to you about it, of what you got. So let's clear the air on that right now. And Mr. Williams sitting here, he know from when the property was even purchased over there, because I got it purchased over there, sir. And so let's make that clear. And when that house got torn out, it got torn out for a reason in the process of that project, for a very good reason.
And the hospital wasn't
And
involved.
it wasn't even on board.
The hospital was not
at the
involved when we
time.
tore that house down.
So you got your
nothing to do
information.
with it.
Well, listen, wait,
No,
we've gone back and forth.
Yeah, but I just wanted to stop this, so we going back to something else just to get that through, so we don't have to bring that up no more. We don't want to bring that up no more. So when we want to work on projects now moving forward, that we agree to disagree on and do for the betterment of the people in that neighborhood. That's what we want to try to do from now on. Now I'm through, because I've been sitting and leave me not saying nothing, trying to figure out how to work together on this stuff. And I had to clear the air on that.
Okay, now that, listen, okay, hold on a second. We all gotta work together. We realize that there's some lessons learned from the past, a lot of stuff that, Commissioner Stewart could bring up that were lessons learned. You're right. There could have been different routes gone. We are now this retreat is for where we're going forward, not the mistakes we've already made. So we all recognize there were things that developed over time, but we're all good with that now. So let's move forward. Is there anything else regarding the legal aspect of this, not because of something else?
As a new board member, this being my first meeting, is there any type of, I do see that I have this redevelopment commission mission and guiding principles page, but is there any type of book or welcome packet that I will receive?
There is.
Yeah, there is.
That is just the
I'd be more than
zip.
happy to make a copy of it.
So I was
I
just saying, do you have this purpose?
I do. I had that. Yeah, I had it in 2018. But I got a question.
So this is not from 2018, this is from 2020. It took the
When that-
first year and a half, February 2020.
I
is the
understand.
date
What
of
I'm saying
redevelopment.
to you is I had it since it's in implementation. I got this book from Zev that has that in it.
Okay,
I just want to
so,
make sure before we get lost. What is it? It's something in here that states what the New Bern Redevelopment Commission is.
that's what I'm
right?
pointing you to.
So I
That's
want
what
to
I'm
make
trying
sure
to
that
do.
in this paragraph, do you have that, Chair? The paragraph that says what it is? 'Cause I want to make sure that I'm clear on what the Redevelopment Commission should be focused on. I can read the paragraph, but it states it right. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. It says the New Bern Development Commission is a public body created and organized by the New Bern Board of Aldermen in May of 2018. The purpose was designed to implement a comprehensive plan to address the blatant parcels as well as public health, safety, and general welfare of citizens within the redevelopment area designed in this article. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what the redevelopment commission is and the purpose.
Public
So-
health. Public health is health and wellness.
I'm saying,
Okay.
so, I got you. And the last thing I'll say on that, Mr. Tabari and Mr. Jones,
Yes, sir.
is that as a credentialed health provider with a master's in health administration services, that nobody that you guys were talking about to run that facility, we didn't have the resources to run the facility with the community.
Oh, my God.
We're not
So
going
I just want to
But see, you will you please tell them to stop?
You're not going to make a point that you don't know. You don't have the credentials to run a
You don't know
facility.
what we have.
You don't have the
Hey,
credentials to run a
You
medical
don't know
facility.
what we
Here,
have.
here,
You
let's
was
do
not
this,
in
Which
Reggie,
is
Reggie,
why it's in the location.
Reggie.
You
You
don't
not
have the
know what we
credentials.
Okay, I
have.
think we're done with the legal side. Everyone, the meals over here, just go grab your meal. This part, I know we got a couple new people and some of the old people may have some few questions, so this is an opportunity for me to present on the side of the city, just a basic outline of what the city does and some of the resources that you all have. Whenever you all give us direction and say, hey, we're giving the staff direction to do this or that, just to let you know where and who the contacts we are utilizing, and if you all need to reach out to some of these contacts or gather some of this information, we're here to provide that with you. So, with that being said, just some basic information about our city. Most of y'all know we're about just under 31 square miles with just under, just a little bit over 35,000 people in the city limits. And that red part that you see there are the city limits of New Bern. You know, some people who live like in River Bend or Trent Woods, they may have a New Bern address, but they're not paying taxes for the city. So even though it may say New Bern, they're not New Bern. Anything there in red though are the outlined city limits of New Bern. Right there, that's basically how we govern. We got a council manager form of government where you basically have the city council that serves as a legislative part where they basically give us our ordinances and guidance and policies. And then you have appointed a chief executive officer, which is Foster Hughes, the city manager. And he gets everything done through the directors and the staff that falls under those directors. And as I'm going through this, if y'all have any questions, please ask. This is the current governing board. If y'all have any questions on what, who they are and what they look like, there you go. Look at them smiling right there. Again, that's outlined basically what Alderman Ferguson's zone is. If y'all have any questions, pretty much considered like the downtown area. Alderman Bride, our area, predominantly like the Duffield area, a lot of what we're discussing today. Alderman Astor, Blue Water Rise to Bern, Carolina Colors area. One of our newest aldermen as well, Alderman White. The area Best, and let me step back a minute, Alderman, White and Alderman Best, as well as Alderman Bryant, they're all, liaisons for our board, so you may, in and around see them, in and around these meetings, so if y'all have any questions, concerns, you can forward a lot of those to them as well.
So
You may-
Alderman White not Perkins?
Yeah, and it doesn't, as you know in your, the ordinances or whatever, it says you can have at least one, alderman. It doesn't say what ward they have to come from, and you can't have more than 3, because then you have a quorum. So, Alderman, Ferguson wanted to be on here, but, when the other 3 showed more desire, so he stepped back to let the 3 of them, be over this.
Okay.
Alderman Best, obviously, you all pretty much familiar with her as well, mainly predominantly the Pembroke area. And Dana Alderman Outlaw now, he's back to Trent Road area and all that.
You said Best Temple?
Huh?
I thought you said Alderman Best and Temple. I'm sorry.
She's Pleasant Hill. Pleasant Hill.
I mean, right, yeah, sorry. Our organization chart, I know it's sort of an eye chart there, but one thing I will point out at the top of that is the citizens of New Bern. They pretty much give direction to the alderman. The alderman gives directions to Foster, but they also they hire Foster. They're responsible for hiring Foster, the city manager, the director of finance, as well as the city attorneys. And then under Foster, he pretty much has responsibility for all the staff. I fall under Foster. You all can see that my main responsibility, I'm pretty much responsible for the police, fire, public works, and IT. And Foster has the other 4 departments, Parks and Rec, Government Services, Human Resource, and then the public utilities. Administrative-wise, this is our administrative staff. You all probably dealt with all, may not have had any much with Rebecca, but she goes by Becky, but she basically is our administrative staff, so if you all need anything, you all probably be touching bases with her. You all know Colleen, who's been around as our PIO. These are all the department heads. You probably met most of them. Ernest Simons is our technology IT director. Charlie Richard is the director of public utilities. George Childs, Public Works, who was here earlier. Carrie Warren, Director of Parks and Recreation. Sonny Hayes, our HR Director. Jordan Hughes, Director of Water Resources. Jessica Rue, Development Services. Chief Patrick Gallagher and Chief Damon Locklear, Fire Chief. And Kim Ostrom is our Director of Finance. This is our mission. It's been the same mission for the last almost 20 years. Not a whole lot of change. It's pretty simple, but it pretty much covers what the city does. The mission for the city. Employees of the city of New Bern shall strive for excellence, which will enhance the quality of life within our community by providing accountable and equitable service to all citizens. I mean, they get much basic than that, but hopefully it covers everything that our citizens need. And this is what we do when people ask, I get people sometimes, city manager, assistant city manager, what do you do? Aside from answering complaints. I said, well, we're basically responsible for the people who do all the work. I mean, the people with the city, they provide electricity, water, sewer, trash collection, public safety, and the police and fire fall under us, and obviously maintain the stormwater, a lot of stuff that we talked about today that people have a lot of concerns. We used to have 27 parks, now we're down to 26, but as you all know, some of the parks aren't real parks, but for a city our size, we have way more these type of amenities for our citizens. And as you all know from getting the annual or quarterly bill, we mow grass as well, so
We sure get
you
the bill.
You get the bill, you get the bill, and pick up trash and all that. These are some of the things that come from our employees, for 4,100 service tickets from IT. These IT service tickets are strictly for the employees of the city. We don't do any IT work for citizens, so this is just what it takes to do the information technology for the city. Police goes on a lot of calls, and these numbers are pretty much from 2025. Fire, same thing with them, lots of calls. Finance processes 1,600 invoices, 11,000 time sheets. And that doesn't really matter a whole lot to you all, but that's what keeps the employees happy, because that's where the paychecks come from. And then it caps customer and payment services, or AKA water and light bills. That's how much they process.
There's 5,500 new lights went on.
New service,
All services.
new service application for people who are applying for water and electric services.
So they moved in, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's
What
a new-
was his time frame?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's his time frame, that 5,500?
This was for last year.
Okay, last year.
Yeah. And these are some of the projects that we've done. You all, Dutcherfield Stormwater is what George Charles talked about earlier. They're revamping the land use ordinance right now. So there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of legal hurdles that they're going through right now. So that stops at different times. Right now it's at a sort of a standstill, but we're still behind the scenes working on trying to improve those. Obviously, Stanley White Recreation Center